The Electronic Entertainment Expo happened not too long ago, the trade fair where a bunch of corporate suits tell you what you should be throwing money at. As cynical as that description sounds, I always have a lot of fun watching E3 conferences both sincerely and ironically. While I for the most part jumped the hype train years ago, it really brings my friends together in heated discussion about the industry, and it's absolutely hilarious to take the piss out of everything on Twitter. The following is somewhat of a diary that I wrote in poorly written and detached quickfire passages after each individual conference to sum up what happened and my overall thoughts. However, do keep in mind that this video will only cover events that I personally showed interest in as to not clog up this script. So if something doesn't show up in this video, that's because I wasn't interested or just couldn't give my thoughts on it. Now that's cleared away, welcome back to Guru's Corner for E3 2017. EA's conference was kind of a mixed bag. Past the sports, there was an unexpected announcement for A Way Out. Developed by Hazelight, same developers behind Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out is a cinematic co-op game that involves two individuals, one with a concerningly droopy nose trying to break out of prison. The gameplay involves two players controlling each character throughout, be it through online or local multiplayer, and the gameplay preview even showed examples of one character being in a cutscene while the other continues playing, and situations that have multiple solutions. And, well, colour me intrigued. Having not played Brothers as of writing, I definitely am interested in the concept, and I really want to give this a go when it releases in early 2018. Following all this was some more sports, giving me the perfect opportunity to go for a piss.
They show something interesting. In fact, they show two things interesting after, like, one after another. And now they're going back to fucking basketball. Why didn't you just get this all out of the way at the beginning?
I was about to say, good luck guys, it's Todd Howard.
He turns the camera and he's like, hey guys.
No, actually, it looks like the love child of Todd Howard and Dennis from Always Sunny.
Okay. Oh my god.
And then Star Wars Battlefront 2 happened. Took you bloody well long enough. Star Wars Battlefront 2's time slot in the conference showed a whole load of info, such as a single-player campaign featuring all eras of Star Wars, gameplay post-conference, and surprisingly enough the announcement that all post-game content including maps and weapons will be free for all players. I was actually surprised by this. EA thought to themselves, maybe everyone will like our games more if we weren't a bunch of twats. The gameplay shown wasn't bad at all, showcasing a form of payload match. The map looks a little flat and narrow for my liking, but considering the Battlefront games are much more busy and chaotic than other shooters I've played, this could work in the game's favour. It really does look like a bounce back after the underwhelming reception of the first Battlefront reboot back in 2015, and I really want to give this a go. So overall, the EA conference was alright at best, surprisingly enough. There was a lot of drivel to get through, but a small amount was shown that I found interesting, and it might actually convince me to buy an EA game for the first time in years. Games that are more interesting with better business practices are more pleasing to consumers. It's weird how that works, wouldn't you say? Now, Microsoft started the conference off on the dodgy side. There was of course the reveal of Project Scorpio, now given its official name the Xbox One X, a mid-generation hardware upgrade for playing Xbox One games in 4K and higher frame rates, similar to the PS4 Pro. There was much guffawing at the announcement of new hardware as everyone wondered where the games were, but Jesus Christ, Microsoft delivered in what gradually became a really solid conference. Games, you say? As Mr. Microsoft proceeds to pick up little Timmy by the collar. Well, guess what, you little shit? We have 42 of the things.
Of course, they brought a fucking car on stage.
Oh god, I wonder how the cartridge bingo card's going on right now. I mean, yeah, it was hilarious whenever a game was referred to as an exclusive, because pretty much every Xbox One game has a Windows 10 port, but I'd be lying if I said there weren't a job lot of games I wanted to play. There was The Last Night, a jaw-droppingly beautiful pixel art game where the sprites blend into the 3D environments perfectly. Just look at the lighting. The Artful Escape, which appears to be a music-based action game with loads of colour and charm, Rare's multiplayer pirate adventure Sea of Thieves that I could definitely see myself playing with friends, and so many other titles. Cuphead was shown again so that everyone remembered it existed. Life is Strange, one of my favourite games of 2015, is getting a 3-episode prequel. Gameplay was shown of BioWare's new IP Anthem, and there was even the announcement of Super Lucky's Tale, a sequel to the original game that nobody except me ever played. Why exactly? Because I'm one of the very few twats in the universe with an Oculus Rift, and the first game was bundled exclusively for the headset. The original Lucky's Tale, while fairly basic and bare bones, was still a delightfully charming game, and finding out that Lucky was getting a non-VR sequel that could reach a much wider audience led to the stupidest grin on my face that night.
Oh dude, I love the design of some of these things.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
Trust me, the original game was just as cutesy and charming.
The only thing
I
I
like the
don't like the
chickens.
design of is the main fox. Look at those worms!
Oh my god.
This has better character design than Ukulele.
I was immensely impressed with Microsoft this year. I usually shove them in the same category of EA and Ubisoft where the conference starts to get by the numbers and dull, but they introduced some really great titles and it just fills me with anticipation of what the other conferences will hold. But now, it's late, I'm insanely tired, and there's no goddamn way I'm staying up for Bethesda. I told you I wasn't staying up for it, now let me go to bed. Like, there was Doom VR, and Fallout 4 VR. That looks like fun. Even though if you look on Steam, Fallout 4 VR is being sold as a separate £40 game instead of an add-on pack or free update. Yeah, I was never really a huge Bethesda person. I just feel like they're not big enough of a company to carry a whole conference on their own every year. There's a reason I watch this on VOD instead of staying up. Also, where the hell has Todd Howard gone? So very boring. I say that with hyperbole, of course, but yeah, the PC gaming show at E3 doesn't have the best reputation in the world, with one journalist I follow saying that last year they could feel their arse going numb as they were forced to sit through it for a business trip. I think it's testament to the quality of this conference so far that we've been talking about completely unrelated matters while they bang on about XCOM 2.
DLC.
DLC.
XCOM 2 DLC.
DLC. But that isn't to say there weren't games I was excited to play. Ooblets looks like a freaking adorable cross between Pokemon and something Keita Takahashi would come up with, as you customize your character, decorate your house, and explore the world with your own little battling creatures, which comes to PC and Xbox One in 2018. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, an early access battle royale game that's been lying around in my Steam library, is getting new content and mechanics including wall vaulting, maps and weapons. A combat adventure game called Tronic was shown off and looks absolutely stunning as well as completely adorable. Killing Floor is getting its own VR release with Killing Floor Incursion, and Age of Empires is getting a definitive edition to celebrate its 20th anniversary, which I was actually happy to see. This doesn't mean the conference didn't have its fair share of bullshit though. I believe my main issue with E3 conferences is a company's habit to put so much focus on an individual title that it slows everything to a crawl. I mean sure, criticisms of the show are kind of unwarranted because it isn't a standard conference, but personally, I prefer when games are shown back to back in a more concise format. Show a trailer, show some gameplay and details, then immediately move on to the next game without wasting our time. A lot of people with different game tastes watch E3, and while I can't criticize a conference for showing games I personally don't find interesting, I can at the very least criticize it for spending way too much time with a game that I don't find interesting. But overall, the PC gaming show gave signs of improvement in comparison to last year. Not a huge improvement like, say, Microsoft's conference, but it was an improvement nonetheless. It's 2017, all conferences at E3 are making steady improvements. Phil Spencer never changed his t-shirt mid-conference once, and Aisha Tyler isn't hosting Ubisoft. Because of these factors, I'm led to believe that prior to the event I was escorted into a vortex while I was sleeping and sent into a parallel universe where the game industry is a little bit less shit. I must confess that, just like EA and Microsoft, Ubisoft's press conference started a little on the weak side, but it really built up momentum as it went along. An interesting point of discussion was Mario and Rabbids' Kingdom Battle for the Nintendo Switch, which had gameplay showing it was a crossover strategy game with a similar format to XCOM. There was of course a massive shit show in response, but I'm maintaining a relatively positive outlook on this one. While strategy games were never really up my alley, the gameplay looks fine. It looks like there's actually some heart going into this project. Not to mention, I'm probably gonna get shot for saying this, but the Rabbids are kind of a mini guilty pleasure of mine. I mean sure, they're a goddamn cash cow at this rate, and all those party games that they promised were totally Rayman games are an insult to the franchise, but I always felt there was a kind of quirky and surreal quality to them that I've kind of fallen for since they went independent to let Rayman be in amazing games again. Like, what did you expect from characters that are literally called the idiot rabbits in French? Not to mention, they have had a decent game, which was Rabbids Go Home for the Wii, an action-adventure game that was addictive and bursting with charm. And the soundtrack was also pretty damn awesome, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Following that, there was a trailer and release date for South Park The Fractured But Whole, something I was definitely excited for as someone who adored the Stick of Truth. Far Cry 5 got a new trailer that already makes it look way more interesting than 3 and 4. We have Starlink, a space game that involves attaching toy spaceships to your controller, and I swear to God is going to cripple me financially as someone who has a soft spot for collecting physical tat. And of course, Ubisoft would love to remind you that Beyond Good and Evil 2 still exists.
Oh my god. Oh my, are
He's on the poster on the side. The fucking...
Oh my god!
Headphones! It's happening. What's happening?
Oh my god.
Oh! Oh! Yes, dude!
Hold on.
Oh, Joe!
No, I'm getting so. Oh my god!
Described it.
It's okay, Joe. Let it out.
Yes.
There it is.
Time to creep.
Oh my god!
Time to creep,
There it
Joe.
is, Joe.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Oh my god. Ubisoft, I love you. Ah! Yes! Yes! Oh! Yes! Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god! Ah! Oh, you beautiful fucks! Oh, Ubisoft!
My ears are still ringing from that call. I actually went and bought the first game after the conference, so here's hoping I'll see what all the fuss is about. So yeah, Ubisoft did a good job and ended on a solid note. Well done you. The Sony conference is usually the big event for me during E3. Now, these guys, they know how to do a conference. There's loads of interesting games, and the format is quick and concise. So, how was this year? Yeah, I'm sorry, Sony was alright this year. Alright this year. After watching every other conference, everything felt a little safe and underwhelming. I said at the beginning of this video that I'd only cover stuff of personal interest, and well, this one's been really hard to write about as such, because everything shown was either not particularly interesting, was a port, or was already announced last year. There weren't even new details on the stuff we've already seen, everything just felt superfluous and boring. Detroit had me kind of excited as they introduced a new main character, and I'm adoring the concept so far, but after the disappointment of Beyond Two Souls, I'm kind of worrying how Quantic Dream are handling everything. We have the Uncharted spin-off, Days Gone, Shadow of the Colossus Remastered, new Monster Hunter on PS4, Skyrim PSVR support that, just like Fallout 4 VR, is being sold as a separate game with a full retail price, Destiny 2, Spider-Man. It was just a safe conference where Sony stayed in a huge bubble of a comfort zone. But saying that, I am probably going to rob the nearest bank so I can afford the collector's edition for Undertale. Saying this just makes me feel like the bad guy now. Do I just hate fun? Am I a flesh-eating growth that's going to single-handedly destroy video games? This was actually a weird case, being my first E3 where I ended up preferring other conferences more. While Sony's pacing was generally better as it showed trailer after trailer and didn't stop for speeches or interviews, Microsoft and Ubisoft's conferences, for me at least, presented some far more interesting titles that I hadn't seen or known about prior. Sony didn't give me that feeling of, holy shit, I can't wait to play this, mostly because I already knew most of these games existed, and it didn't feel like they were trying hard enough to actually sell them to me, almost like they were phoning it in. Yeah, I mean, we won last year, so like, should we bother? Nah. But hey, we have the PlayStation experience to look forward to in December, so let's see what else you have in store for us, Sony. Also, please give me some more details from Media Molecule and Funamina about Dreams and Watan. Please, it's been a few years now. I had to wait like 3 years for What Remains of Edith Finch to come out because nobody told me that Giant Sparrow were busy changing publishers. Nintendo and E3 are kind of a weird mix, primarily because for the past couple of years now they haven't really done E3 press conferences, they instead do Nintendo Direct live streams in-house. Their past few presentations have generally been on the underwhelming side, especially with how they treated the ill-fated Wii U, but now the Nintendo Switch is out, I was excited to see what else they would introduce. Holy shit, I think I need a Switch. Nintendo, dare I say it, have been great this year. It's clear that since the Switch came out, the company has been working tirelessly to improve, and it's been working out great for them. Improving at their marketing, their hardware, their software lineup, so it doesn't feel like a system that was left out to die like the Wii U was. Portable Rocket League, Pokken Deluxe, Xenoblade 2, new Yoshi and Kirby games, and Metroid Prime 4 had one of those you can acknowledge it exists now kind of last minute announcements. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude!
Holy shit!
Well,
Well, the worst part was I actually joked to Rob about this.
Rob, dude!
Rob! I've actually called this E3 the year of Joe trying new shit, as I now want to play Beyond Good and Evil, Xenoblade Chronicles, and the Metroid Prime trilogy for the first time. Funny that.
What did we get? Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Metroid Prime 4. What is happening?
What parallel universe did we go into before this conference? The new Mario Odyssey trailer I adore with a passion. Detailing more about the new hat possession mechanics and showing off the environments makes me more excited to play the game. When it comes to my experience with a similar Mario game, all I can really think of is Mario Galaxy. Odyssey, a game that, while enjoyable, I didn't feel held my attention for long and required a lot of willpower to get through to the end. As for Odyssey, it looks like Nintendo are taking a more kitchen sink approach, piling the game with loads of varying mechanics so that each world will have its own unique and interesting elements. I also adore the environmental design, primarily because it looks like Nintendo are actually making sodding environments this time, as opposed to a mishmash of random geometry floating in the void. A map design habit that is way too common for this company, especially in other games, and I'm disappointed to see that it's still the case for Splatoon 2's story mode. Here, it feels like everything has a rhyme and reason to it, as opposed to being plonked down for a mechanical purpose. And the theme used for the trailer is just the most infectious little thing. I can't listen to it without immediately going all, "It's time to jump up in the air, jump up, don't be scared, jump and all your cares will soar away." Oh, sorry. I even stuck around for some of the post-conference Treehouse stuff, and that was a lot of fun too. Watching the Splatoon 2 Invitational was an absolute blast and has me even more hyped for the game, to the point of where I started watching with a friend and turned into a human encyclopedia explaining the game modes and mechanical nuances. At the end of it, the US team Deadbeat defeated the Japanese Dynamuse by an immense clutch near the end, as Dynamuse players frantically climbed up the tower during overtime to get past the checkpoint, only to get team killed. It was such a magical moment to watch live, and I hope Nintendo do more tourneys like these in future. Nintendo's conference was an excellent way of closing off E3, and despite rarely being a fan of their stuff, I think this presentation has single-handedly sold me on a Nintendo Switch, provided I can get enough money for such a thing, that is. As opposed to other conferences, the execution of everything felt like they actually wanted to sell you what they were showing, as opposed to just passively presenting it. As such, I think I'd say this is my favourite conference out of the lot, with Ubisoft and Microsoft at a really close second and third respectively. So now that I've kissed your ass for a few minutes, Nintendo, does that mean you'll acknowledge my Splatoon video was fair use and remove your content ID claim that I disputed? Or does this mean I have to start playing Erasure songs from 1988 on my channel? When summarising everything into words, I absolutely loved this year's E3. Common criticism I've heard is that everything felt a bit more held back, reserved almost, but I think that's why I've adored it. Minus some exceptions, I showed interest in nearly every conference, there are a shit ton of games I wanted to play, and my cynicism was at an all-time low. Dare I say it, I think this has been my favourite E3 since I started showing an interest in the game industry. Nothing felt particularly hyped, it felt humble and positive, which I believe is something the industry should look towards in future. That competition of course makes a healthy industry, but at the end of it all, we're just here to have fun. With that, I hope you enjoyed my rambling as per usual. Now let's sit back for next year, as everything I praise about this year gets dashed upon the rocks and everything goes back to being the hype train toxicity pool it once was. I think I should try being optimistic more often.